It's a dark night in the Mushroom Kingdom, and Mario's not exactly the hero you know him as. In fact, I want you to imagine him slipping out of Peach's castle, gloves smudged with questionably obtained gold coins. You ever think that maybe your favorite plumber has crossed a line or two? I mean, between stomping on creatures, snagging treasures from unsuspecting blocks, and invading every castle in sight, Mario's just one step away from being on a Mushroom Kingdom most wanted list. And he's not alone. In the world of Smash Bros, our go-to heroes seem to have committed a surprising number of infractions. Yeah, some of these characters are broken the law, big time. So who's guilty and of what exactly? I mean, which iconic Smash Bros character have canonically crossed the line from hero to outlaw? From the sneakiest acts of theft to some downright world-ending offenses, I'm going to reveal some interesting cases. Some of these characters you'd expect, but others, well, you might not be ready to see them in this light. And as I reveal the questionable histories of our favorite Smash characters, you'll be surprised just how deep this goes. Some of them have done things that make you wonder if their hero label still holds up, while others like Mario have crossed moral and legal boundaries so often, it's a miracle they're not locked up in every kingdom and galaxy. Think about it. What if someone like Link, a so-called hero, has a history that includes breaking and entering? Or if Samus has taken space bounty hunting to some, well, legally gray extremes? These characters aren't just committing crimes. In my opinion, they're rewriting the rulebooks of their own worlds. But before I start yapping about each character's criminal record, let's get on the same page about what canonically committed crime actually means here. We're not talking about some fan theory or isolated misunderstood action. This is about official in-game moments where these characters crossed a line, from theft to assault and even some world-altering offenses. Each act has been laid out by their creators, and it's time we judge these characters based on their own universe's standards. And remember, this isn't just a list of villains. Instead, it's a mix of supposed heroes, anti-heroes, and everything in between. So let's see which of your favorite characters might deserve a little time in the slammer. To be honest, I'm going to start small, easing into the crimes with some minor mischief. Toon Link, for instance, might not immediately strike you as a criminal, but the guy's got a long history of property damage. You'd think the hero of time would have a clean record, right? Not exactly. When he's not busy saving Hyrule, he's got a habit of walking into strangers' houses and smashing up all their pots for rupees. He's been known to smash countless pots and trespass into random houses all over Hyrule, usually in search of a few loose rupees. Sure, he's on a noble quest to save the kingdom, but breaking into someone's home and ransacking their pots for pocket change? That's vandalism and trespassing plain and simple. I mean, imagine coming home to find every piece of pottery you own shattered just because a kid in a green hat was having a rough day. In a court of law, Toon Link would probably face at least a stern talking to, if not some fines for creative fundraising. I come home after a long day in Hyrule, and there's Link just rifling through my things, acting like he's doing me a favor. I'd be pretty mad. But I want to know your perspective as well. Is it theft? Or is it somehow forgivable because he's trying to save the world? I'll leave that one up to you. But if you think he's bad, Yoshi's involvement in crime, though a bit more tongue-in-cheek, might be even worse. The green dinosaur's long been the subject of fan speculation, with one allegation surfacing again and again: tax evasion. Originating from a throwaway line in Nintendo Power magazine, Yoshi's alleged tax dodging has become a meme in its own right. Though he doesn't exactly have a W-2, Yoshi collects gold coins like they're going out of style. But has anyone ever seen him declare them? It's a case of small-time mischief, but one that has Yoshi's reputation in question, at least in the world of internet jokes. And if you were thinking we're just going to talk about minor offenders, sit tight. Because we have some serious offenders whose crimes edge into a darker, more questionable area. Take Fox McCloud, for example. To his credit, he's often hailed as a hero, but a closer look at his line of work paints him as more of a paid vigilante with questionable morals. Fox takes on jobs as a mercenary, engaging in dogfights and blowing up enemies left and right, all in exchange for a nice payout. This technically makes him a space pirate of sorts, with a very loose interpretation of what's legal in the cosmos. Every laser shot and enemy ship taken down is a new tally on his destruction of property record. Fox might defend the Lilat system, but in the process, he's breaking intergalactic law in every direction. Plus, he's also got a knack for blowing up entire space stations, trespassing in enemy territory, and disregarding intergalactic boundaries. Sure, he's on a mission to stop Andross, but some of his more destructive antics would definitely get him in hot water with any space police out there. I'd say that Fox lives by his own rules, and while that makes him a fan favorite, he's probably got a bit of an interstellar warrant hanging over his head. But let's just be honest, he's still in the gray area. If we're to talk about shady schemers, I would mention Wario, who in my opinion is a character who doesn't even pretend to follow the rules. His life is one long pursuit of riches, and he doesn't mind how he gets them. Theft? Check. Fraud? You bet. This guy has scammed more people than he's had garlic, whether it's through gold hoarding schemes or those bizarre minigames in WarioWare. For example, in WarioWare Inc. Mega Microgames, Wario tricks his employees into making microgames for him. But when the money starts rolling in, he decides to keep all the earnings for himself. Classic Wario move, right? To Wario's delight, the completed game becomes a massive commercial success. However, Wario's eventually confronted by his friends who demand that he share the income with them. Wario manages to avoid his angry friends by escaping in a rocket. I mean, Wario's the kind of character who wouldn't think twice about keeping a little extra treasure on the side. Or a lot, really. Between his crimes and his questionable business ethics, Wario's practically the poster child for financial crime in the Mushroom Kingdom. But then, of course, we have the classic villains like Bowser. If there's a Smash character who's perfected the art of criminal activity, it's definitely the King of the Koopas. Bowser's crimes are no laughing matter. The guy's a repeat offender of kidnapping, and his target is always the same: Princess Peach. This isn't a one-time crime of passion. Bowser's abductions are practically tradition at this point. He's got enough kidnapping charges to fill a castle. His castle, to be exact. Bowser doesn't just stop at kidnapping, though. His rivalry with Mario has led to countless cases of attempted murder, as he sets up deadly traps, tosses hammers, and even hurls Mario into lava pits. If we were to translate this to the real world, attempted murder alone could land him up to 20 years in prison per attempt. And given the number of times he's tried to take Mario out, let's just say Bowser would be racking up multiple life sentences pretty quickly. And when he's not tormenting our misunderstood vigilante Mario, Bowser's guilty of occupying entire kingdoms with his Koopa army, imposing a hostile reign on innocent Mushroom Kingdom denizens. In real-world terms, this would be equivalent to terrorism or unlawful occupation, crimes that carry decades, if not life imprisonment, without parole. You could say Bowser's made a career out of criminality, achieving a villainous status that would send even the bravest plumber into a panic. If he were ever tried in the US, he'd likely be looking at a few hundred years behind bars, and that's being generous. But wait, why did I call Mario a misunderstood vigilante? Well, here's a question for you. What does Mario even do for a living? He's a plumber, sometimes, but mainly he's running around collecting coins. Now, how does he get them? By breaking and entering into brick blocks and looting castles across the Mushroom Kingdom without so much as a do not disturb sign. That's right, our red-capped hero is canonically guilty of theft, vandalism, and trespassing. And while we might love the classic
It's me, Mario
line, you have to wonder if somewhere he's got a really long rap sheet. I mean, just look at him trying to collect every coin he can. But do we have any characters who go beyond the anti-hero territory? Well, my vote goes to Samus Aran. Interestingly, the galaxy's fiercest bounty hunter isn't exactly working with a license here. Samus makes a career out of tracking down and eliminating alien threats, but let's not overlook that she's essentially a space vigilante. She's broken intergalactic regulations countless times, which include ignoring orders, blowing up whole planets, and even exterminating entire species when she deems it necessary. While she might technically be acting in the galaxy's best interest, that doesn't exactly keep her record squeaky clean. And how can we forget the original villain of Nintendo's lineup? Donkey Kong's first crime was kidnapping Pauline back in the arcade days, and while he's rebranded himself as a lovable ape with a banana stash, let's face it, this guy is a classic abductor. The whole damsel in distress setup may have softened over time, but canonically, he's got kidnapping charges to his name. Whether he's holding onto his jungle turf or squaring up against Mario, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, or rather banana-stained. But if we're talking about actual crimes, we need to talk about the menaces. And who can be at the top of this category other than the classic war criminal, Ganondorf, the eternal nemesis of Link. As the primary antagonist in the Legend of Zelda series, Ganondorf's ambition is nothing short of conquest. He has a history of invading peaceful lands, terrorizing innocent people, and perhaps worst of all, wielding powerful dark magic to twist the world to his will. Each time Ganondorf reappears, he brings a fresh wave of tyranny, corruption, and mayhem, all while seeking to capture the sacred Triforce and gain ultimate power. He's orchestrated invasions, raised armies, and manipulated others to meet his ends. You could say he's the kind of villain whose rap sheet includes attempted world domination as a regular offense. And while he's constantly thwarted by Link, Ganon always returns, showing he's learned absolutely nothing from his defeats. If Smash had a jail, Ganondorf would definitely be serving consecutive life sentences. But do we have a character that makes even Ganondorf look tame? Well, we obviously have the Destroyer, Ridley. He's the space dragon from the Metroid series. Ridley's presence in Smash is, well, let's say controversial, because he's not just a villain, he's basically a true monster. As the arch-enemy of Samus Aran, Ridley's crimes extend far beyond a simple rivalry. We're talking planetary-scale destruction here. Ridley and his space pirates don't just invade planets, they annihilate entire civilizations. One of Ridley's most infamous acts is wiping out Samus's family in cold blood when she was just a child. Ridley's tactics are brutal and ruthless, showing no regard for life as he conquers worlds and spreads terror across the galaxy. This is a character whose crimes wouldn't just land him in prison, but would make him an intergalactic fugitive on the most wanted list of several planets. His warpath of destruction and merciless actions make him a standout criminal, even among Smash's rogues gallery. But if you thought Ganondorf and Ridley were bad, just wait until we reach the Irredeemables. Here, we find characters who aren't just villains, they're embodiments of existential threat. At the top of this category sits Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. Known for his silver hair, massive sword, and even larger ego, Sephiroth doesn't just have a few crimes under his belt. He's a literal destroyer. His goal is nothing short of global destruction, and he's willing to go to horrifying lengths to achieve it. Sephiroth's infamous crime in Final Fantasy VII, the act that cements his place in gaming history, is when he sets an entire town ablaze, and shortly after, kills a beloved character in cold blood. His motivation is to become a god and rule over what's left of existence. This guy is exuding a darkness that casts a shadow over anyone who crosses his path. And if someone can beat them all, it should be Joker from Persona 5. I know Joker's crimes aren't nearly as apocalyptic as Sephiroth's, but if you take a closer look at his actions, you'll discover that he's actually the most dangerous character. I mean, he's using his powers to dive into the metaverse and change people's hearts. His actions might seem noble, but let's be honest, he's taking the law into his own hands, manipulating people's thoughts and behaviors in a way that borders on psychological warfare. In the real world, this kind of mind control would be considered a serious violation of free will. Joker and his Phantom Thieves target corrupt adults, stealing their twisted desires to reform them. But with no accountability or oversight, who's to say Joker's crusade won't go too far one day? For now, he's framed as an anti-hero, but his actions raise enough ethical questions to make him fit snugly into this list. Drum roll please, as the grand finale, the dirty, dirty criminal, and it's in his name, Snake! This guy's a covert operative who specializes in infiltration, espionage, and weaponized combat. Snake's been involved in countless assassination missions and some pretty sketchy alliances. Snake's whole life is one big legal gray area. He's breaking and entering, spying, and smuggling more often than not, making him one of the most morally complex characters in the Smash lineup. Now, each of these characters has their own set of heroic actions, but that doesn't mean they're innocent. Their questionable methods and morally gray deeds only make them more interesting, don't they? And now that we've looked at some of Smash's most infamous records, there's just one question left. Does knowing their criminal history make you love them more, or maybe, just maybe, see them a little differently? So what's the real takeaway here? Well, getting a sneak peek into these characters' criminal records lets us see them in a whole new light. We're used to cheering for their battles, celebrating their victories, but seeing the dark side, that makes them way more intriguing. It's like discovering that even the good guys in Smash, heroes like Mario or Link, aren't exactly squeaky clean all the time. They've all had their questionable moments too. And honestly, knowing their messy histories makes the whole lineup a lot more interesting. It shows us that, just like in the real world, things aren't always black and white, even when it comes to saving the day. So maybe you'll think twice before calling them innocent next time you're battling it out in Smash. I know, you have a few objections and I'm going to address them. You could say that a lot of these crimes are committed for the greater good, such as Link smashing a few pots to buy supplies for his next showdown, or Fox McCloud blowing up enemy bases to save his crew. But just because they're heroes in their stories doesn't mean we can overlook the havoc they leave in their wake. For me, that's what makes these characters interesting. They're complex, with motives that sometimes push them to bend or outright break the rules. And sure, I get that these are video game worlds, where the stakes and morals don't always align with real life. But isn't that the fun of it? Diving into these what-if scenarios makes us see them as more than just characters on a screen. So whether you see these actions as forgivable or downright criminal, it's all in good fun, and it makes you wonder just how heroic some of them really are. If you had fun exploring the misdeeds of these characters, I'd love to know what you think. Drop a comment with your favorite criminal, or let me know if there's someone you think got off too easy. And of course, if you're into these kinds of deep dives into gaming lore and character breakdowns, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.